afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming today. Today is 16th of March. The reason why I bring up the date today is our first event took place on 17th of March in 2024. So we're just one day shy of our anniversary. So it's a very special day to come back to here and to celebrate NVBA Talks continuing its program for the second year. So last year we had two events in March and I think in May. The first one was on the impact of the Supreme Court on the politics of America. And the second was on breast cancer awareness and how it impacts Indians. So those were the two events last year. This year we're kicking off with a very interesting topic, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute, about the new moon mission, the Artemis program. And we're going to follow this up with other programs coming up. Our goal is to have at least one per quarter, but we'll see how many we can do. The next one we're planning right now is inviting some of our small business owners, some IT company owners for a panel discussion in a few months, maybe at the end of June. Please grab a seat. So that at that time we're going to get exposure to people who have started business recently and how they're doing and the risks and rewards of all that. So, but that's coming up in June. Today we're going to talk about the moon mission, and we have an excellent speaker. So Dr. Debasis Bask. For most of us, he does not need any introduction. I call him NVBA's Renaissance man, right? He's a rocket scientist in real terms. He's also our sound engineer. Everything that you see here is his equipment. He came and set up everything. Apart from all this, he's also known to a lot of us for his musical talent. We're going to touch on that later on when we have a formal introduction. The format today will be more interactive than ever before. It's not going to be a monotonous speech, so he's going to talk for some time and then probably display some of the models, talk through that, and then take questions as we go. We're not going to wait till the end of it, okay? So a little bit of background on Debasis. So Debasis Bask currently works at Northrop Grumman as a senior manager. I need to put my glasses on. As a senior manager for mission assurance in the Tactical Space Systems Division. Previously, he served as chief scientist in the same division. His major expertise is in the development and manufacture of satellites and spacecraft and a few selected rockets. He has worked extensively on missions related to the space station and the next generation lunar mission. He has been in the target team for major mission failures, including the Artemis rocket explosion. He previously worked in Tata Iron and Steel Company, General Electric, Oak Ridge National Lab, and NIST in Maryland. He got his master's and doctor of philosophy from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, in metallurgical engineering with a focus on aerospace alloys. His recent passion and interest is in educating, inspiring, and helping school and college level students in the field of STEM. As the current chairman of Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee, CTAEC of Loudoun County Public Schools, he works closely with LCPS leadership to plan and organize several activities and events to connect the classroom with the workplace so that students are better prepared for their career. He has also extended this endeavor to help with education and vocational training of children in need and distress in special schools and welfare centers. He greatly appreciates the opportunity to speak at NVBA Talks and hopes it will be of interest to the community. So he's the man with all the knowledge about moon mission, and I'm not. My exposure to moon mission is having blue moon at backyard barbecue. So I'm going to turn it over to our very talented speaker today, Dr. Debasis Bask.
Yeah, I also enjoy blue moon sometimes with my friends. So first of all, definitely thanks for the nice intro. I'd like to start by thanking the NVBA Talks committee. It's not a trivial job, right? It appears that it's a small arrangement, but there are a lot of planning and execution and assistance needed. So I'm really glad that we are able to continue this. Also, I must thank some friends who came a little bit ahead of time, set up everything. So thanks for that. And also I must say that both in this room and in the broader NVBA community, there are a lot of very talented people, very accomplished people. And if we can continue the talk series, we get to know, from those subject matter experts on different topics. So really glad to be a small part of this. And definitely thanks to all of you. We know that there are many ways to spend a Sunday afternoon, but maybe this is one of the way, and we'll try to make it interesting. In addition, what should I say? All right, so how would this talk be formatted? First of all, this talk will be a very casual, informal, laid back, informational, no stress, no pressure kind of talk. Just feel relaxed. Anyone can ask any question. Doesn't mean I'll be able to answer that, but you can certainly ask. And I'm glad to see some youngsters in the audience as well. So with that, I would say, yeah, let's begin. Journey to the moon, when you look at it, it appears to be obviously a very major undertaking with a lot of complexity, a lot of planning, a lot of design development, testing. Only then you can get to a certain level. So what I tried to do is keep the details aside in this. It'll just touch and go type. Like I'll give you a perspective of what the next generation moon mission means. Now the previous generation Apollo, that the last person that went to the moon was sometime in the early 70s, and now. Of course, here's another chance to go to the moon, and it opens the door to a next generation exploration, which is going to be permanent presence of humans on the moon. So with that background, we will get started, certainly. Let's see, no, it's okay. As you know, the evolution of transportation, so ever since, the invention of the wheel, man has been wanting to go places, right? So there is this motto, and it says, faster, stronger, higher, something like that, Boy Scouts or something like that. But add to that further, that means I want to go further. I'm not happy with just taking a stroll in the neighborhood. So, this whole evolution that developed, they used animals, then chariot wagons, and then bicycles, motors, gasoline cars, and, so many different things. Until we went to rocket, the left one. Goddard's rocket only flew 41 meters high, that's it. And from there, we have come to the SLS, the Space Launch System, which is expected to carry people to Moon and Mars. So we have come a long way. Now here's a little thing. Space mission, lunar mission, going to the moon sounds fascinating, but to get there are a lot of steps, right? And so what I've done is, what I've tried to do is actually divide this section this talk into two sections. The first one is going to be and especially because there are some kids in the audience, it's going to be about pathway to a dream, inspiration, aspirations, passions, hobbies, how do you build yourself to a certain point, then use that as the stepping stone to do something bigger in your career. So it's not just one fine day you realize, oh, I want to be an astronaut or a rocket scientist. So especially for the kids, and you see here these kids, what they're doing here is imagination, right? They're drawing things. They don't know what's going to happen in the future, but they have a dream that one day, their dream is going to launch into something great. It does not have to be rockets, it could be anything. So here's a pathway to my dream, and I wanted to start with a little side story of my own. Everyone has their own little stories of how to build a dream. Why I'm calling this pathway to a dream? All right, so this is where I grew up. The place is called Fuel Research Institute in Bihar. A little bit sleepy kind of place, not much going on. They had the labs here and the coal research plant. And we used to live here. My father was a doctor. He was a very busy person. You know, it was hard to get his time. But when I was about 4 years old, you know, one thing he used to do is he used to take my hand and he used to walk me every evening. And this is the path we are going to take every day. Because as I said, it's a small place, not much going on, right? Why that place? Well, it's between two lakes. There were some benches. We sat down and we chatted, you know. One day, he says, and right around here where I have the red dot, the reason I remember is there's a staff hostel there. He says, he points to the sky. The moon is up, it's late afternoon. He says, let me tell you something. People have landed on the moon. And my reaction was, no, the people cannot land. What are you saying? I mean, how can people land on the moon? The moon is very far. He said, why not? Because I said, this was my naive answer. I said, well, the earth is moving, the moon is moving, the rocket is moving. With all these things moving at the same time, how does the rocket know when to reach the moon or when to start? He said, look, I'm a doctor, I don't know all that, but I can show you in the newspaper. All right, so I found out people landed on the moon. And my father had a pen pal, a pen friend at that time. I mean, some of the young people may not even know what a pen friend is anymore. He told his pen friend that my son is really excited that people have landed on the moon. The pen friend, she sent me two things, a poster of Neil Armstrong and a rocket kit. That is not that poster and that is not that kit, but it's similar. I could not find that poster. In that poster, Neil Armstrong was wearing a blue t-shirt. I just couldn't find it, but I tried to recreate that pathway to a dream with a few pictures, similar pictures I found. The other reason why I'm calling it Pathway to a Dream is that if I go a little further, we had our school, the Nobly School, that's where I attended from kindergarten to 12th grade. So Pathway to a Dream is always through education. So that's why I'm calling that road the pathway to my dream. I just wanted to start with the side story, and I'm sure everyone has these little stories going on, right? Am I obstructing anyone? All right. So next thing is inspiration, you know, gathering inspiration, providing inspiration. I'll give you some general things. So as part of the CTAC at Loudoun County Public School, we do a lot of things. These are some pictures from Job for a Day. I'm seated here, and this gentleman that you see here looks a little bit like Paul from behind, isn't he? But he's actually Rick Mastracchio. He's an astronaut. He has been to the space station 4 times, 3 times aboard 3 different shuttles and once aboard the Soyuz mission. So I invited him to give a talk. He was engaging with the LCPS students. And over here what's happening is the current LCPS students are engaging with Northrop Grumman employees who were previously LCPS students. So this is how we inspire, cross-pollinate, educate. It's not just about rocket science all of a sudden one day, right? All right, so I'll talk a little more about Rick later. And LCPS has this Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee. It has an executive committee, just like NVBA has a executive committee. You may see a familiar name here, I don't know. There are members, ex officio members, school board liaison, a lot of people outside the school system, like business partners who help with it. What we try to do is we try to connect the classroom with the workplace. You know, events, activities, talks, different things, so that LCPS students are better prepared for their career. A lot of people may not know, but LCPS actually teaches aerospace. And the teacher who teaches aerospace at LCPS, I had invited him to our company and we had a good talk. So among the youngsters, if anyone is interested, certainly we can get you connected or we can get you some more information. So this is all about what I was talking about in terms of some educating, inspiring, you know, that kind of thing. Another way you can inspire people, bring your children to work day. Among the youngsters, anyone have been to bring your children to work day? No, but that's a great way to see what your parents are doing, you know, shadowing their work. Yeah, you showed up.
You UCSD campus, so University of California, San Diego campus. So I was doing experiment and he was like 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, and he saw me doing stuff, so.
See, and that's a double benefit. Not only are you getting educated, but you're seeing someone at home, and when you see the same person doing something as a profession, that's an inspiration. So that's exactly what, I'm trying to underscore here. So my daughter, Monica, she has been here many times, and here you see a picture of her with these different rockets. Someone is trying to come in, if you can open the door. So different rockets and all. Now they also got a chance to see the actual rockets and the spacecraft, but it's not allowed to take pictures of the actual spacecraft or rocket, so you have to be contented with these model rockets. I mean, she saw them, but no pictures. And then she used to come to my office, and I used to give her all sorts of tiny little science things to work with, and these scientists over here. So we used to have, that's another way to inspire people. What else? I was invited last year to this place called Kalaghar, which is run by Priyadarshi Sen, who is the daughter of Moitrey Devi, who was a disciple of Rabindranath Tagore. And I got to hear a lot of nice stories about Tagore, but since that's not the topic for today, I just want to stick to what we are here to discuss. But there were about 100 tribal girls, They are just impoverished, they're in distress, they don't have where to go. And it's a Shantiniketan style teaching atmosphere under the tree. The reason you do not see anyone here, we are not allowed to take pictures of those girls, but incredible. I mean, the experience I had, I thought first that, they may not know that much, right, about aerospace. They don't have internet, they don't have phones. I asked them who was the first person to land on the moon, and they broke out in chorus, every single one of them, Neil Armstrong. I said, who's the second person to land on the moon? At least 25% of those tribal girls knew it was Buzz Aldrin. And then they started asking me questions about Sunita Williams and why they're stuck, when they're going to come back. So educating there are no boundaries, you can just spread your influence. So when I left that place, and actually Luna and Monica were also with me, when I left this place, I felt more inspired than any kind of inspiration I was able to provide, because at 82 years old, Mr. Shen is still running the place just like his mother, Moitrey Devi, used to do when she founded. So different inspirational stuff, I think that's also very important. A completely different kind of inspiration. Here's one of my interns, an employee and an engineer from 15 years ago, Adam. One day he said he wants to leave the company. I said, good, let's have lunch. And I said, good, what do you want to do in your career? He said, I want to be an astronaut. That was 15 years ago. I said, wow, what do you need to do to become an astronaut? And he gave me a long list. He said, I'll enlist in the military, the Air Force, I'll become a test pilot, I have to do my master's degree. He already has a bachelor's from MIT. And then there are 3 sets of screening process. Last week, he went through the third and the last of the screening process. He's in the pool of 30 probable astronauts. They're going to select 12. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. If he gets selected in the last, leg, he gets to be an astronaut, and who knows, maybe one day set foot on the moon. We don't know. I mean, it's certainly a possibility. So again, for the youngsters, if you dream and you chase your dream, you can get there. And in a little more seriousness for the high schoolers and all, if you're interested in, what to do to become an astronaut, I mean, this guy or people I know could be really a good resource. In fact, I got a little involved in the astronaut selection committee last year. I was quite surprised, but I put in recommendations for a bunch of people, including him. Here he's, flying fighter jets, F-15 and F-35. And he's actually inside there, and his colleague took a picture. He has also fought 2 wars, and I can talk on and on, but I won't. But here's another example of how you can inspire people. Flashback from 2019. And who in this room is there from here? Any of the Yeah, you folks are there, and maybe one or two others. Monica, Boobly is not here, is she? She couldn't come? Okay, okay. But nevertheless, you might remember we had some fun, right? A few years ago. Monica, can you keep me in check with the time? Can you come over? Can you set that thing there? Let me. Yeah, I think that's okay. It's okay to extend a little bit beyond 5, or is there a cutoff?
No, 6.
Okay. Yeah, because once I have the microphone and start, I get excited actually. I don't know whether you folks, but there's there's so much to learn. I mean, not just to educate, to learn. I mean, when you talk to the kids, I think you educate them and then you learn some more, right? I think we learn more from them than we teach them. They ask really smart questions.
This was the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 in 2019.
Okay, 2 things I have to say about that. First of all, this talk, Paul tried to time the talk so that, Sunita and Butch Wilmore, he wanted to time with their return, and he couldn't have timed it any better because yesterday at midnight, the Dragon capsule docked with the space station. I think by Wednesday, they'll be back. So great timing on that. Another great timing on this talk was that Apollo 11 was just released, and these kids had watched it at Udvar-Hazy,
Yes.
and then came straight to this talk with everything fresh in their mind and asking really, really nice questions. So my helper there will now distribute, a lot of these are for passing around. Please pass around the Dragon capsule. You know which the Dragon capsule is, but I will talk about the capsule a little more. No, it's not Dragon, the little guy. This is the Starship. Elon will not be very happy if you call that Dragon. But this is, yeah. All right, so aspirations, rather inspirations, education, motivation. What does it do? It brings aspirations and passion. So a couple of people motivated me way back in time when I was a child. I know who they are. 6th grade, 8th grade, they taught me a lot of electronics and photography. I was already connecting little parts and making things happen back when I was in 6th grade. So because of their inspiration, I developed this passion in electronics, and we have a little hobby room in our house, and we make all sorts of things. We have made more than 50 different projects. This is a cell phone we made ourselves, a working cell phone. You can make calls, you can send text, and first off, we tried sending a text just 2 inches apart. But then this Luna call is actually a text we received from Luna while she was in Kolkata, from the other side of the world, and I was as excited as a mission control center if they get a communication from the moon. I was as excited to see that text appear in something we have made on our own. And when I say we, I mean I with some help from Monica. All right. So just some examples. We have made a lot of things. I'll not spend a lot of time, but this is actually a music player with cards. We made hundreds of these cards. And you take this card and just tap it on the pad, and that song or album would start, and then you can stop it, fast forward. Everything works with cards. So that's the passion I developed because someone inspired me many, many years ago. So that's the whole deal about inspiration, aspiration, and chasing your dream. Now we are getting involved in the meat of the matter. We'll talk a little bit about International Space Station, and then we will switch to the moon mission. This is good because we are having some activities right now. You probably heard a lot in the news about these astronauts getting stuck, and I know what happened and all that. I'll not dwell into that right now, but at the end, but by the way, feel free to ask questions though, and at the end we'll keep some more time for questions if someone wants to know what happened, but it's all over the news. Now, as we were saying, for crew to dock with the ISS. You can do that on the Dragon capsule. This is from SpaceX. This capsule, this is where astronauts are here. Up to 7, but they never, 7 is too much. Most of the times they generally carry 4. And this area they call the trunk. That's where they have the cargo, but it can go and come back. So it's a reusable capsule. Very handy. This is the Starliner. And this is the rather infamous Starliner, not the very Starliner that docked with ISS, but this is its twin brother, you can say. This picture was taken in Houston just 2 days before it launched. And you can see cutouts of Sunita and Butch Williams right there. There was a lot of buzz and a lot of people talking about it, but then it did face some problems. We all know that. So let's see. Yeah, we do not have the Starliner here. We have a bunch of things though. We'll talk about them. Monica, you might also want to pass around that Starship, which is not doing very well right now. It's SpaceX's it's their heavy lift. I mean, that's the latest one. It's breaking up every time. But they're going to get to it though. But feel free to pass it around and see how it looks and all. But also, I'm trying to keep these individual segments short because otherwise there's so much to talk about, right? And we don't want to be here till evening. All right. What next? Cargo, ISS, right? The International Space Station. People need to eat. People need to, drink like water. They need oxygen. They need supplies. They need all that. So our company has a contract. SpaceX also has this contract to supply cargo. So this is the cargo vessel, and I'm showing some this thing from our pictures from our workshop where they're trying to mate the Cygnus cargo vessel with the Antares rocket, which then carries food and water. Sometimes we get special requests from astronauts. One astronaut asks for chocolate, another asks for crab, this and that. So sometimes there are special requests. All right, now we are going to move on to the meat of the matter, and that is the Artemis Gateway mission. All right, let's see what we have here. So the previous mission was called Apollo, right? Do you know the reason behind why the next lunar mission is called Artemis? Anyone?
It's the female version of Apollo.
No, Apollo is also female.
Apollo's male.
But anyone else? Yeah.
Twin sister.
Yeah. Yeah, so Artemis is the twin sister, so it was the logical thing to call it, I guess. Anyway, so it's a huge thing. I'll touch upon a few things. And there are a lot of partners, as you can see. The big difference between Apollo and Artemis is this time we are here to stay. Means Apollo was like a hotel, and Artemis is like a residence. So Apollo went there and came back. Artemis, permanent presence of humans around the moon and possibly on the moon. Two totally different in terms of scale and complexity. But during the 60s, even just landing on the moon was a very pioneering achievement. I mean, needless to say, but so here is a quick overview. Artemis 1 will do a unmanned flyby of the moon. So if this is a moon and this is Earth, it will go here, do a flyby, come back and parachute into the Pacific. That's already completed. That's without astronauts, that's with mannequins. Next, Artemis 2 is a manned flyby of the moon. That means, obviously, there will be astronauts. There'll be, if this is the moon, they'll circle the moon, come back, and splash into the Pacific, or could be in a desert, to demonstrate you can do the same with human beings. And Artemis 3 it's not a flyby, they're actually going to land on the moon. But between 3 and 4, there's a huge effort to build a lunar gateway that's like an orbiting space station around the moon, which will include HALO, which is the Habitation and Logistics Outpost. That's the one that I'm working on actually on a regular basis. So I have a little more information, and I'll probably spend a little more time on the gateway. And then Artemis 4 and beyond, they are not going to land on the moon directly. They're going to dock with gateway, and then a descent module from that gateway will descend on the surface of the moon. And so again, if this is the moon, it'll have a very eccentric orbit called near rectilinear halo orbit. So it'll come very close and then very far, highly elliptical. At the closest point is where they're going to descend on the moon. Another set of astronauts are going to ascend to gateway, and that will go on indefinitely every week. And the period of that orbit is 1 week, so every week there'll be activity. So it'll be very exciting once this all gets going.
There was a question on the previous slide.
Yeah.
So when the Artemis 1 went there, I'm guessing Artemis 2 is learning things that Artemis 1 is providing the details. What are some examples of things that are unknown and then things that are learning? I don't know if everything can be shared, but whatever can be some examples.
No, so Artemis 1 more or less demonstrated near flawlessly, but always there are these relatively smaller things. Maybe a Delta rocket was supposed to fire for 18 seconds, it did for 14 seconds, and the trajectory. So at the minor level, there is some learning process, some trajectory corrections, but by and large, the whole thing, the critical part is, the fly. I mean, of course, all these rocket segments have to separate, and then once it's actually that trajectory is, I call it a free ride from nature. So the energy theoretically is zero. Nature is giving you a free ride. You can, even if everything fails, you can come back to Earth. But then everything has to sort of detach at the right time, the various segments, the parachutes have to land, everything has to go right. So it did go right, actually.
I have one more question.
Yes, please.
What are the timelines looking like?
Yeah, the timelines, so the first one is complete. Artemis 2 is in preparation, so that'll be sometime next year. Artemis 3 is 2028. Lunar Gateway in 2028, we are going to launch certain components of the Lunar Gateway, but to complete it will take at least a year more. And some of this, because of all these churning in the government happening, I mean, some of these could easily slide to the right. So that's the general idea we have about timeline, but it's slipping every now and then.
Quick question, so it may be a lame one, but so we already landed on the moon, right? So what is the difference between that and this Artemis 3?
Yeah, so the Artemis 3 or even 4, they want permanent presence on the moon. Why permanent presence, right? So actually the gateway will be the launching pad for going to Mars. They don't want to go to Mars directly. There are some benefits of, so just like we have a International Space Station for Earth, we'll have an International Space Station for the moon, and semi-permanent presence. So the spacecraft that we are designing, the requirements are 15 years. I don't think a spacecraft will last 15 years, but at least the design says that. So this is going to go on and on. So one set of people are going to, astronauts are going to go, they're going to land, another is going to go, and they're going to set up a lot of experiments on the moon, and finally some, maybe even camps on the moon. They may start actually staying on the moon for some time. So this time we are here to stay. That's the big difference between Apollo and Artemis. Yes.
Artemis 3, that went, it's a future mission. So where is it? Is it on the lunar south pole of the moon?
Exactly. So that's on the lunar south, and that makes it very difficult. And India successfully landed a spacecraft on, and South Pole. Why landing is difficult? It's a trajectory thing. It's a little, but why land on the South Pole? Right? South Pole has the least electromagnetic disturbance. So if you want to do deep space studies, South Pole is a very good way to do that. Also, this time the trajectory is such that it is never on the far side of the moon. Previously, when you're on the far side of the moon, there is no communication between Earth and the moon. So that's why, even though it's a bit difficult to land on the South Pole, yes, Ruchi, it's going to land on the South Pole of the moon. Yes, Pasha.
Lunar Gateway, is it American thing, or you have collaborated with the other countries as well?
Yes, it's a good question. So we have many major contractors in the United States. Then we have European Space Agency, we have JAXA, which is Japanese Space Agency. There are 1 or 2 Middle Eastern agencies. And then Canada generally manufactures certain robotics and arms. So it's a sort of an international collaboration, but as it always happens, NASA is picking up most of the tab actually.
Is it NASA or SpaceX also involved?
So now NASA is the administrative body. The major contractors are Boeing, SpaceX, Lockheed Martin. I think we have someone from Lockheed here, and Northrop Grumman. But then there's Blue Origin. There are second tier. There are at least 10, 15 others who are also collaborating. This is a huge, huge effort. Okay. So moving on, I really don't like written charts that much, right? But this one is an exception. I thought I would just list all the different missions. Now, especially because we have smaller children, I'm trying to use more graphics than text. So how are we going to go to the moon? All these building blocks. We have the space launch system, which is a rocket. We have Orion, which is a spacecraft. We have Gateway, which is Halo to start with. And then we have lunar landers, which are going to land on the moon. But I promise you, this may seem to be a little, all over the place, but the pieces of the puzzle are going to come together soon, because I have some nice graphics and videos to show that. And here it is. So we have the sort of the 2D blueprint of the Gateway. We have a 3-dimensional exploded view. Then we are going to explore a 3D model. Then we are going to look at a virtual video, flyby video, and then we have this real thing here assembled, and Monica was able to assemble this herself from a kit that came. And after the talk is done, just feel free to come and look at it, it would give you some idea how the whole thing is going to unfold. So with all this, so basically we'll have these two are the habitation modules where humans are going to actually live there, all right? This is the human landing system. This is the one that I'm involved with, the Halo, right? So a human landing system will dock here. A logistics module will dock there, and that will again bring supplies from the Earth every now and then. The PPE, power processing element, will be docking here. And then this is the iHab where they can also live and do certain things. And then the Orion module from Lockheed, which is actually going to carry astronauts, are going to dock here. Massive effort in cislunar orbit. That means it's so difficult even to do this in Earth orbit. Now we have to do all this in lunar orbit. This is incredible, but...
There's a question, so brother, go ahead.
Yes.
What's a comment about the last week launch for Fireflies, the Blue Ghost, they landed on moon?
Yes, I have been following that a little bit. I think one of them landed on the side. And,
so that is a different company. We landed on the landing, they tipped over.
Yes.
But last week,
the Blue Ghost, those data, they are going to be very closely looked at by NASA. I do not know too much, but they are, because those data are going to be very useful before they launch with humans or any major thing. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I was at NASA Houston. I happened to be in the mission control room when they launched that one, which the one that landed on the side. Even though I don't know too much, I'm not closely following, but those smaller missions, they have their importance though, because all these telemetry and test data, the NASA scientists are looking at that very closely to tweak maybe some, not make any huge changes in the original plan, but tweak little things so that, fine-tune things so that the mission will go right. And let's see, for this one, we have to break out of the,
There's a question.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Your
ask the
question.
So is it going to be harder?
Louder.
Is it going to be harder to get the gateway to orbit the moon because there's less gravity in the moon?
Less gravity. So Gateway will have a difficult time because of how complex it is, but the gravity is not the issue because the whole orbit around the moon has been, the way it has been calculated is taking into account the gravitation pull of the moon, the earth, and then there are some points called L1, L2, L3, which you might not learn later, Lagrangian points, that also helps in neutralizing some of that. So the difficulty of the mission is not going to be about the gravity. Yes, it's about 6 times less, but it's already figured out in the what we call astrophysics or astrodynamics. So they have already made that change. Yes?
Talking of gravity, how will it affect the human health?
Sorry?
Affect the human health if you are kind of trying to go there permanently?
Yes, so that's why the plan is not to keep one set of astronauts for too long. Now, that's the side that I do not fall. So my involvement is mostly the manufacture, but these are good questions actually. And so we don't know once Artemis, beyond Artemis 4, what happens 5, 6. I don't think they want to keep the astronauts for too long. I think they're going to rotate. So maybe every 3 months, they're going to ferry them back and forth. Because because of the gravity, the bones and other tissues could degrade a lot faster.
Yeah, they did a study with our Arizona senator and his brother. One stayed longer and one has not stayed longer.
The Kelly brothers.
Yeah, so there is a study published showing the difference of gravity. And in this case, both are brothers, so they have genetical, all these things are the same.
Yeah.
So the mutation or whatever. So there was a good study there.
Exactly, and these they don't leave anything unturned. I mean, any information they have. I mean, Kelly brothers are, one of them have the record for the longest duration in space on Earth. So, the human, the biological side, like how it affects psychological, those I have not studied that well, and maybe my knowledge in that is somewhat limited, but definitely very good questions. What I'm going to show here is a virtual model. If someone wants this model, what you can do is you can look at the gateway from all sorts of different angles. You can zoom, you can pan, and this is the one that we are manufacturing. This is the one I have most interest on. Doesn't mean that this is the most important, but this is where astronauts are going to live, and they're showing one of the descent modules attached on one side. Someone asked about international collaboration. This Canada arm, this is totally manufactured by Canada, but one of them is manufactured by JAXA. I'm forgetting which one. So this is how the whole thing is going to look like. Now, coming back to somehow this module would not work from the full screen view, and the mouse is back. And so where were we? We were somewhere
24.
here. Now, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, I don't know what a video is worth. And let's look at how Gateway looks from a virtual perspective. Okay, so to build all this on the Earth and then take it to the lunar orbit and attach and integrate and make sure everything works fine, that's the level of difficulty. Yes, Ashwandi.
How do you test it?
Sorry?
How do you test it? Like in a vacuum area, or how do you, like, once you build it over here? How do you
So
test
both at NASA and all the major contractors, whether it be Lockheed or Northrop Grumman or Boeing, we have huge chambers called TVAC, thermal vacuum chambers. So after so testing is done right from the part level to the component level to the subsystem, then module, then this and that, and then spacecraft level. So testing starts from the tiniest of components, and one of the things we can do, Monica, you can pass on some of these very tiny components here, and you can look at them. I don't think there's any problem. And so not only does the gigantic structures have to work, but the tiniest little components have to work. Otherwise, the whole thing is going to fail. Just pass it, open it and pass it around. What these are we call it hybrid microcircuit. So let's say in your computer or your phone, you have what we call monolithic microcircuit. That means there is one die, one silicon die, and the entire circuit is etched on the die. Here there are multiple die and other components you'll see, and the entire trajectory, most of this is actually etched there, and then it controls mostly the whole thing. So the testing starts at a very low level, Shundip, and then as we build the spacecraft, but the vacuum testing is done in huge vacuum chambers where they vary the temperature and put it in vacuum. The temperature, why? Because sometimes it's very cold out there, like minus 55, and sometimes it's very hot, like almost reaching 75 degrees. So yeah, lots of testing. It's so much testing that sometimes we get tired of the testing. It's so much testing, especially with human-rated programs where you do not want to leave anything to chance.
And then after the testing, it doesn't work, right? And then it goes back again. After you make it work, it goes back again, and then it's
So I run, one of the labs I run is called Failure Analysis Lab. I think Monica has been there. So anything that fails, we have to determine the root cause, the corrective action, and the preventive action. And it's a very rigorous process. Now we are going to NASA every 2 months. It has entered a critical phase. When we say we, Northrop Grumman engineers, including myself, every 2 months we are there or they're here. What happens is we look at a very detailed tree of what could fail. And there are certain combinations of failures. If you check the boxes on the right, you will see it may result in mission loss or loss of crew. There are other kind of partial failure, but if it's a mission loss or loss of crew, you have to go back to the drawing board almost and make sure. Otherwise, you're not going to get the signature from that mission director from NASA. So this all goes on. Yes, Shora.
Any timeline to do the whole thing? It's from scratch to the end?
Oh, yes, there is. So we have budgetary timeline and time-based, budgetary constraints and timelines, of course. Sometimes they get stretched, not because either it's Lockheed's fault or Boeing's fault, but supply chain, like during COVID, certain things got slipped. Sometimes you build something and find out it doesn't work. No one is going to take a chance on safety just because you have to launch like 3 months later. So there is timeline, but things slip. Yes.
What is the tentative? Is it a 1 year, 6 months?
So
build the whole thing?
So build the whole thing is a multi-year, like maybe 4 to 5 years for all the contractors together. I know for Halo, I got started with Halo like 5 years ago, but that's from the drawing board, like what to even order, like the tiniest parts, and then the specifications, sitting down with the NASA engineers with the specification, mind-boggling. That took about a year just to consolidate the design, and then comes ordering the parts, then building these smaller components and each subsystem, and then integrating it to the spacecraft. So a lot of that goes on. So that could be a multi-year, like 3 to 4 year.
Okay, so you guys only build only one in this multi-year project, or do you have any backup if something happens to that you can also?
There is not a whole lot. Good question. For the Halo, there is no backup. So if that Halo, what I'm involved with, if the Halo fails, there is no backup. There is no money to make another backup. It's just $1 billion spacecraft. But I know Lockheed's Orion, they have built 5 or 6 of the Orions. That's because it's going to go back and forth. Yeah, you had a question for a long time. Sorry.
Once we send gateway to space, is going to be any way to get it back on Earth?
1 second. How many coming? 1 second. Yes.
Once we send gateway to space, is there going to be any way to get it back?
Once we send these spacecraft to space or moon, are they going to come back?
No, the gateway. The gateway.
Oh, the Gateway. Right now, Gateway is a 15-year mission. They generally do not, there is no benefit of bringing something like ISS or Gateway back to Earth. What they do, and this might sound a little bit sad, they have graveyard orbit. We call it graveyard orbit. So it just goes to that orbit and just sleeps and not used anymore. The other thing they sometimes do is it's rapidly deorbited at a high speed, and the whole thing burns up to ashes. There is no sign of it. So the Cygnus module that I showed you, that burns up. It collects, so it delivers cargo to the space station, it collects all the garbage, and then it's incinerated in space. It's ashes. But I don't think they're going to just burn something like this, but it's just going to just be like an isolated scrap at that point. It's sad, but that's what's going to happen eventually. Yeah.
The gateway, once that is established, how will it create that link to Mars? Is it going to be faster or?
Mars.
Yeah, mission to Mars. I mean.
Yeah, so that's the next step altogether. But there is some talk going on. Actually, there was a lot of talk going on, but now the focus is so much on the moon. But I know this is going to happen, that once you establish the gateway, you're going to launch spacecraft from the gateway, because the gravity is so less over there that and you're going to get a favorable trajectory with less fuel and less time. So eventually, anything that goes beyond, let's say in the solar system or beyond, will be launched from Gateway rather than from the Earth. At least that's the plan. Yeah.
So with the time horizons that you're talking about, these probably span multiple administrations, have been spanning multiple administrations, and will continue to do so, right? What changes or what impacts have you felt within the mission of the different priorities that different administrations might have had on something as momentous as the second?
I was going to try to avoid this topic, but I will, since you asked, I'm going to. The reason is that there is so.
Let's come back to these.
Yeah, because there is so much churning going on, especially, and this part is a little bit political. That's what when you have a change in administration from one party to the other. I can give you an example. I worked on the launch abort system many years ago, and when the next administration came, they established a body and somehow determined that launch abort system is fatally flawed. After they said that, we actually designed, tested, launched, and handed it over to Lockheed Martin. It was fine. And that's the launch abort system that is sitting right on top of that. So that's what happens when politicians get involved and these angles come in. What's the right pathway? How much budget do I give you, and all that. So a little bit nasty kind of things happen when you have changes in the government, unfortunately. Yes, you're right though, but programs do get affected by that.
Yeah, leaving aside the political aside of it, and saying from pure mission point of view, does this impact your commitment to a timeline? Because of political reasons, certain things get derailed or sidetracked.
Yeah.
How do you handle changes to the project?
You cannot do anything. Sometimes we feel helpless. There was one situation where we just had to button up a spacecraft. We were given 5 days and we are given a project number just to button up and write down, what you did, so that when it's opened up again, they don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you cannot even touch it. You cannot charge even like a minute to that program. Yes, these things happen. It's very unfortunate. But our little guy here, he has questions. Yes, please.
What if it's still Earth? Will it still become a scrap and take the space?
So,
The gateway.
So the Earth's gateway, we call it International Space Station, even that will end someday, because what happens is all these cosmic radiations and all these solar neutrinos, these are little particles that come and completely bombard. So there is a limit. So let's say everything has a lifetime, right? Just like human being, even like your car that you drive. After a few years, this thing breaks, that thing breaks, and it's in the, it's in the, basically you have to scrap it or donate it or something. So this also has a limit, and after a few years, unfortunately, it will cease to exist. But someone is going to make a new one, right? So there's always going to be something. By the time you grow up, there will be quite a few more things to work on.
So is it fair to say that this combination of the ISS and the gateway is like two hub airports? So Washington flight to IIT is like here to the ISS, and IIT to Dubai is like the flight, and then Dubai to Moon is like the branch. Is that the future, that ultimately the transfer is always between the ISS and the gateway?
The transfer is always between the Earth launch pads to the gateway. ISS is a whole separate, whole separate path. Like you are going from Kolkata to Delhi, another is going to Bombay or something like that. They are not, ISS is not designed for launching from the moon, so they just left them alone. I'll take one more question and then we'll move on because we have some interesting, few more things.
Please keep moving on, we'll come back to the questions.
Yeah, we can do that. All right, so let's see, this one, okay, this one is done. Okay, the space launch system. This is a major one. This is the space launch system. This is the most powerful rocket to date. It actually is more powerful than the Saturn V, which carried humans to the moon. And here is the SLS. Monica, if you're available, you can hold on a minute with your snacking and you can help me maybe hold that. Stand here and hold that, or maybe I can hold that, I don't know. It's probably, no, just forget about the stand, just the thing. I forget it, it's fine. I think I can hold it. Anyway, this whole, no, you hold it. I'm having a little difficulty now. So that orange part, no, just stand here, right here. This orange part is the liquid engine. It has a liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen tank, and other than that, it does not have anything. But when liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen mixes and ignites, it combusts, and you generate tremendous amount of energy. So it relies on that. It also relies on the two solid rocket boosters, the white ones on the side, and those are also manufactured by our company, though I do not have anything to do with it. But it's pretty interesting. I'll show you one or two videos of it. And then if I can find my laser pointer. So as I was showing you, that's the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen tank. These two are the solid rocket boosters. And the Orion, that capsule that's going to carry human to the moon, and I'll show you pictures of that, that sits here. So the astronauts are perched up all the way to the top, right over here. And then there is a launch abort system. And I think Kaushik asked and I was answering, we worked on this about 15 years ago. Then we had to kind of scrap it and start again. That launch abort system, actually, so if there is any crisis during launch, it's actually a smaller rocket sitting on top of a larger rocket. It'll just carry the astronauts to safety in case the main rocket explodes or malfunctions. So I think it's good for now, and you can pass it around. I mean, most of this, I would like everyone to kind of have a look and feel of how it looks. And this is the launch abort system that our company tested that I was talking about. And this is an exploded view of the same thing. And again, not going through too much details, but here's the crew module. That's where astronauts are going to stay, or they're going to, that's their compartment. And then when it goes to the moon, the service module is going to go with it. When it returns to Earth, that's the only vessel that's going to return. So it's very critical. The boosters, I have some interest in them. I wanted to show them and just the scale of things, right? Those who have seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it's almost as high as that, and this is lying on its side. And I got a chance to see the static fire test once. It's quite a spectacle, and I'll show you that. And this picture is taken by me. It's in Promontory, Utah, which is just next to the Great Salt Lake. So just the wildlife and lots of bisons around, and very pretty part of the country. But it's quite a spectacle to watch. And this is the booster rocket lying on its side, going through that static fire test. And these, someone asked about Artemis 2. These are the 4 astronauts that are going to fly aboard Artemis 2 in this. I mean, it's just showing one segment here, that's all. But I really want to show you this video where you will appreciate the sheer power of just these solid rocket boosters.
Army preparations are complete.
T-97 test area is clear for static test.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
So I think Shondip was asking about tests, right? So these are one of the many tests you have to do on Earth to make sure that it does not malfunction in space. Shujan,
how much is the temperature when it's ignited?
Sorry?
How much is the temperature when it's ignited?
Oh, the ignition temperature for these things could approach 1800 degrees, 2000 degrees something at the point of combustion. But it's not so much the temperature, it's just the power that you generate, the thrust that you generate. So you generate energy and you channelize that through these nozzles so that you can have maximum thrust. One quick question and then, yeah, please. Yeah.
There was a good question.
Yeah.
Question is that when you do a static test, right?
Yeah.
So the thrust you're getting is the horizontal, right? But in real time, the thrust gets the vertical. Right. So when you send the horizontal thrust, how do you hold the system so tight so that it doesn't move?
Exactly. This is anchored to the ground in such a way. I mean, I'm not part of the test, but there are just pillars and rods and concrete and so. I mean, the amount of if it ever starts moving.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. And it'll go to the Salt Lake City and maybe destroy something.
Or is that the thrust is the same thrust is going when it's going to vertical?
It's the same thrust. A little bit of change because of gravity and angle and all, but yeah, I mean. But the whole thing is it going to explode? Is it malfunctioning? Is the temperature exceeding somewhere that something, a metal or a graphite or is something melting? Those are the reasons that yes.
Just quick question. What's the need for a solid rocket booster? Because you have the whole pie, you have the whole engine with the liquid oxygen and nitrogen. You may combine this together, right? So why do you make 2 individual forms?
Right. Again, very good question. So there is a limit to how much liquid fuel. Liquid fuel is heavy. And you have to take so much, the rocket itself is going to be so heavy because of your fuel. So you need help. The booster rockets only last for 2 minutes. The liquid engine lasts for 8 minutes. And then the cryogenic upper stages, they could last for like hours. So the first part where from Earth, the gravity is so high, you need this extra little help. Even the Indian rockets, you'll see they have these boosters strapped on the side because you need that extra thrust when you are from 0 velocity you are trying to escape the gravity of the Earth. In the interest of time, I'll just make a little progress, but we'll keep some, we'll keep some time at the end. Here's another video. So now that you saw the video for the booster rocket, let's see a video of the entire space launch system lifting from the launch pad. It's quite a sight. This is simulated, but the simulated one is better than the actual, so I chose to show this.
Go from first sequence 4.
So this is mainly just the rocket, and I'll show two more components, and then we'll definitely take some questions. Now, this is the Orion crew module, and this is the one, the critical one, that's going to actually take astronauts to the moon and bring them safely back to Earth. At least that's the plan. So you can see the size of that compared to a person. I don't think that's a very trustworthy person. I don't know him. But nevertheless, you get some idea about the size, and it can be a little bit claustrophobic inside. And it's designed to carry 4 astronauts at a time to the moon. And this has been taken in the NASA Houston Integration Facility. And I don't know, somehow they let me take a video inside with my cell phone. They don't generally allow it. There are some restrictions on posting this on social media, but for personal use, they said it's okay. So we are going to take a look at how the inside looks like. And there is room for 4 astronauts. You can break off the Orion. Actually, break it off, pass it around. It's fine. I mean, we can fix it. There are all these modules. I wanted to show you. Actually, break the Orion and bring it. Not the Orion. I mean, it's okay if you'd like to do that. Now, let's see. And one question I've often asked is, what is the position of the astronauts when you launch it? Are they sitting? Are they standing? Are they sleeping? Lying down? So this is the position of the astronauts. Actually, they are sort of in the crouched position. And just imagine being in this vessel and being thrust all the way to the moon. These people are like bold people. And this is again Rick Mastracchio, who is an employee of our company and with whom I do all these bring your children, not the children, but job for a day with LCPS and Engineers Day and all that. And he's very helpful. So there is Rick. I'm able to show you a few pictures of Orion in the workshop. These have been approved for public release, and this is before they put the outer panels and the cover, so you can see how much instrumentation and wires, cables, test points, a lot of things going on. So these are some just inside view from the workshop. Next we'll move to the habitation and logistics outpost. So Monica, what did you do with that module? Oh, you passed on Orion. Yeah, that's fine. So the logistic, actually this one is Halo. And right now it's showing the logistics module right from Earth and docked in Halo, and that's the habitation place for the astronauts, but eventually they can even, live there. And this is the power propulsion element that provides power for Halo. Is it possible to run the motor, Monica? Yeah, try that. So this is a Halo, how it's going to look like. And what's Halo really? It's a habitation module. What would the astronauts do in there? They would eat, sleep, exercise. I was told even read a book. Yes, why not? Maybe even play video games. We don't know. But the whole thing is being designed so that it feels like home, like as if you're in a hotel or a home. And we are right now doing the Wi-Fi, the audio. We are mixing, we are trying to determine the right mix of air that it needs to go in. It's not going to be exactly what we breathe here. Then, believe it or not, there will be no fire extinguishers there. So the flammability tests are being done, toxicity tests, that is all this outgassing. All the plastics in the room is constantly emitting bad things. On the Earth, we don't care. There are ventilations. We open the window, we open the door, it's all gone. But in space, it's an airtight chamber, and if the toxic levels build up, they can eventually perish, because of that. And then we have bacterial growth, little things we have to worry about. If there is condensation somewhere and you have bacteria, they could affect, all of them could have a very difficult time. So the one on the right just shows a kind of a semi-transparent view to understand how big it is. And some of the in comparison to the astronaut size. So that is Halo, and yes, the solar panels are moving. Why do the solar panels need to move? Why not stable? Oh yeah.
Because if they were stable, then if they just looked at the sun and suddenly started moving there, then it would not be able to look at the sun and it would run out of power.
Yeah, actually that's very close to the right answer actually, yeah. Because you want to, and for those who are, for the adults I would say, we used to learn cosine components and all, right? So if you're looking directly, like normal to the sun, you're capturing all the energy. Why would you like to tilt it? Then you only get the cosine component of that. But yeah, it's a very, that's why we need to bring youngsters like that, bright guy, Ishan. Okay. Now, habitation. This is how it started. So this picture, what you see behind is the very first piece of hardware we manufactured for Halo, the habitation and logistics outpost. This picture has been taken in Torino, Italy, which is about about 2 hours from Milan. And while you try to find me in this picture, I'll explain what this is. We call it the radial bulkhead. And this is the very first piece, which was the most challenging. And the radial bulkhead is actually this guy. And what you see over here is actually that one. And it's very critical. Actually, no, that's the other one at the bottom. So that's where the ascent and descent modules will be attached eventually. So astronauts, when they go down to the moon, they'll actually come out of this hatch or this window. And I'm kind of the odd man out, I'm right there. So this is a team of NASA, Northrop Grumman, and Italian scientists and engineers who met to discuss, because at that time there were all sorts of problems and issues. Those have been resolved. After a lot more manufacturing, this is how it looked like. This is that radial bulkhead that you saw in that picture. But now I'm going to show you how the inside looks like. There are a lot of pictures that cannot be shown because of the proprietary nature. So I'm able to only show a few, but this is the inside. And what you see on this picture is, this is the side where Orion is going to dock with Halo, and astronauts are going to come through this hatch into Halo, and this will be the living quarters. So this is one side, and this door took a long time. I mean, there is an automatic way to open the door, there's a manual way, there's a semi-manual, and if all else fails, there'll be a strap to pull it hard enough and probably get it unjammed, but that's the absolute last resort. There are a lot of redundancies in this kind of design that one has to deal with. Otherwise, astronauts could get just stranded and in very difficult or critical situations. This is the other side of Halo. This is all mock right now, just placeholders. There's a lot of instrumentation. And everything that's being manufactured in Italy, at NASA, various places. In October of this year, it's all going to come to Northrop Grumman. Initially, the plan was to build it right here in Sterling. I really got excited. I thought, wow, we'll build the whole lunar module here, but they have decided it's going to go to a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, where we have another huge facility, and it's a bigger facility. So that's where the final thing is going to be all assembled. So that's Halo. And then for the descent module, I don't know too much, but I know SpaceX and Blue Origin are working on ascent and descent module. It may not look exactly like this, but it'll be some version of this. But I just wanted to show at least one of the pictures so that you know how it looks like. And then finally, I would say everything we have talked about. This video is a nice summary of you know, everything, all the building blocks of Gateway and Artemis in a very short video, so just watch that.
3, 2, 1, 0. Mission liftoff.
Artemis 1 will lift off from Launch Pad 39B at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida with 8.8 million pounds of thrust, provided by the most powerful rocket in the world, our Space Launch System rocket, or SLS. The uncrewed flight will be the first integrated test of SLS, our new Orion spacecraft, and exploration ground systems at Kennedy. Artemis 1 will send Orion beyond the moon, 280,000 miles from Earth, farther than any human spacecraft has ever flown.
This is not NASA doing this. This is the United States of America doing this program, the Artemis program, and there are companies all across our country that have a part in it, so there is kind of this wave of excitement being generated just by saying, we're going back to the moon.
After the upper stage of the rocket separates from Orion, the upper stage will deploy small satellites over several days to perform science experiments and technology demonstrations. Orion will make its multi-day outbound trip to the moon, propelled by a service module provided by the European Space Agency. Engineers will test Orion's systems on the way to the moon. Then, Orion will fly about 60 miles above the lunar surface, using the moon's gravity and engines on the surface module to enter a lunar orbit. After about a month and a total distance of over 1 million miles, Orion will return home, faster and hotter than any spacecraft has before. A primary goal of Artemis 1, ensure Orion safely returns to Earth before we fly with humans. When we do, we'll build our capability for sustainable lunar exploration, preparing us for missions farther into the solar system.
Initially, what we'd like to do is start establishing a presence on the moon. So we're going to establish going back there on a regular basis, and then we'll end up setting up a gateway, and we would launch to the gateway, and from gateway, land on the surface of the moon.
We are there for weeks, months on end. And there we're going to be able to test out all the hardware, the habitats and the hatches and the suits and the rovers that'll allow us to prove out those technologies. The moon will lead the way to Mars, and we should be there within the next couple decades.
Okay, that's I think a short summary, and then And that's it, actually. And to the youngsters in the room, just dream up, imagine, and you'll get there. And for these kids, even a cardboard box and some party plates is enough to imagine that they're in a starship, and someday they're going to lift off. And I'm sure all your dreams are going to lift off. And that's the most important thing. It's not about really moon mission or anything. Moon mission is just one of many parallel paths. So just carve out a dream, have a plan, get inspiration from your parents, from your teachers, and then just at some point, of course, some hard work also comes in, and you'll get to where you want to be in your career, in your profession. That's all I have.
Thank you, Debasis. Thank you, audience, for coming out in big number today. So first of all, I think this should be a series. I think this should be a series with Debasis because we are still waiting for Artemis 2. So every time we have a new Artemis 2, 3, 4, we're going to bring him back. Because this is a rare opportunity to hear from somebody who has hands-on experience on rockets and launch systems. It doesn't happen every day. One thing that I would like to point out is, as we know, Artemis Accord is among 30 countries. It's not just the United States, right? So I'm really hoping that in this current environment, we'll let this kind of collaboration with the international partners go on. So that's my hope, and no, there's no impact, not getting into the politics of it. Also, Artemis 2, 3 is supposed to actually carry first woman into moon and first man of color. So I hope they do not get impacted by anything to do with DEI. Okay, so these are my hopes. Okay, so thank you, everyone. We have snacks in the back, and Debasis is around for question and answers.
Yeah, question. Do you want to take a snack break and then question?
Okay, we can take 10 minutes break for snacks. We have the room till 6 at least, and then we can stay a little beyond. But let's break for 10 minutes. He hasn't had a chance to get some water, so let's break for 10 minutes and then we're going to come back.